everyone, Diane here. Welcome to my studio. Hope everyone's well. Today I'm going to have a go at painting some hanging baskets. And because we're obviously on a book thing at the moment, I thought I would have a look and see what I had in my library here in the way of books about hanging baskets. And this is the Royal Horticultural Society publication. It's only a little book, and it's got loads and loads of beautiful photos of lovely real baskets and how to do it, and also lots of ideas for how to maintain them when you've actually got them going. I think I ought to read this book. As somebody said, I noticed on a painting that I was looking at earlier about painting plants, potted plants, house plants die. At least they don't die if you paint them, which is a good point. So I'm going to have a go at doing that. And let's open up our book at a page where we can see a real hanging plant. And I've sketched out a rough, kind of very, very light, very rough drawing of some pots. You can see them here, I think. And I'm going to paint them without drawing all the details. I don't want to go into any details of drawing at all, because that's not much fun. Unless you're doing a pen and ink, in that case, yes, it's fine, but that's not what we're going to do. And I'm just going to try to, I need a bigger desk. I do need a bigger world, totally. Just move everything over a little bit here. I've got my paints. This is my large palette, my Michael Harding colours, which are a botanical set that I have, and I'm going to use that. I've got all the colours I'm going to use possibly are here, lots of different greens and reds, and I'll put the names of the colours I'm going to use in the description below, so that if you want to get any of those colours, or, you know, you'll be able to find them. So I'm going to sit down and let's start. Now, hanging baskets. Thing is, I think we probably need to paint the pots first. Then once the pots are painted, I'll put in the strings and the supports, and then I'll paint the plants, I think. So this could take some time, and I'm probably going to run out of time. Well, who can say what is that? What does that mean? Let's start then with some... Well, we don't want pots to be green because that would be conflicting with the leaves. What we want them to be is probably either purples or pinks or yellows or browns, I suppose. So let's be really traditional and start with an orangey brown colour. This is quinacridone gold mixed with burnt sienna. And we'll just try that out on a piece of card there, and that's kind of a terracotta sort of colour. So we'll jump in and paint a pot. Now, don't worry about the perspective, don't worry about the, what's the word, the two sides being equal. Every time I think of that, I remember my mother-in-law who used to say, because she liked art, but she said, when I was at school, I was the only one in the class, and she's been dead a long time already. I was the only one in the class that could do a vase with equal sides because I'm ambidextrous and I could draw with each hand. So she did the left side with her left hand and the right side with the right hand. And that's kind of stayed with me, that concept, all these years. Now, this is mostly burnt sienna. And I'm going to put that in here. And if I decide I want to put the strings on and everything using ink, or I might use a brush pen, or I might use a fine liner. I'm not sure. So now I'm going to add some, what am I going to add? I'm going to add a bit of blue to this colour to get an even darker brown. Okay, and then we'll do the one on the end here. I know that looks quite dark, but when we add the strings or whatever we're going to put on, or any design that we're going to put on the pot, if we have a nice dark one, then we can put light things. You could put lines with white gel pen, for example. And now I'm going to do a red one, reddish brown. So we'll mix some of this quinacridone rose in with the burnt sienna, and we'll do that down here. This is, entirely, completely, I'm not going to say up to you, because obviously it is, but it's fun because you can just pick whatever colour you fancy. And we've kind of majored here on the reds and browns. I think they'll probably look nice and bright. So what did we have? There's 5 pots. Always good to have an odd number, 3, 5, 7, or whatever. Okay, so that we now need to let dry. And while it's drying, we can think about what kind of plants we're going to put in these here pots. And we also need to think about the hanging basket part of it. Now, the question is, am I going to do... No, I think I probably have to do the hanging things last. So the next thing is going to be to do the plants. So I'm just going to turn this around a bit so we can see, hopefully, the reds. Let's move this over a bit more. And the greens. Yeah, reds and greens. And my yellows are over here, but... Okay, so I'm going to dry that. Use the hair dryer. Okay, so I'm going to do kind of a little bit, what's the word? A little bit abstractish kind of plants. I'm not going to go for completely realistic ones, not that I ever do. So let's start with this green gold, which is quite a nice colour. And I can only ever think one step ahead at a time. I'm not very good at planning things a long way in advance. And I'm also looking around at my plants here that I've got and seeing that my orchid is growing lots of very big leaves. That's very good. That is a good thing. So what shall I do? Shall I start with some stems and then put in some leaves? I'm just doing that kind of printing technique here, where you just press the brush down to get a nice leaf shape. And really, it's all down to the brush. It's not really you, it's the brush. So you just need a nice pointed brush. Okay, and then let's put one over here maybe. And then maybe one here. Just checking that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, now so far we have achieved quite a lot actually, because we have some leaves in a pot, in a hanging pot, and you haven't had to actually worry at all about painting anything. So people who say, I can't draw, I can't paint, no, you can actually. So I'm going to want to have something sort of draping a little bit down here, aren't I, on this one? Do you think? I could do. Let me think. Let me think. What shall we do? I like that. I think that's really good. When that's dry, we'll put the hanging parts in, and I'm going to have a little dangly. I'm going to pretend this is macrame on there, so we'll have a little dangly bit going down there. I think I really do think, but I feel I want to use some blue. So I'm going to grab some ultramarine blue, which is mixed with a bit of burnt sienna, which makes a nice colour, and I'm going to put in a couple of droopy things here. This is just completely made up, and then we're going to put. I don't think there's. It's a shame actually. I don't see much in the way of blue leaves, but we can pretend. That's the other thing. Not only do your painted houseplants not die, they can also have really interesting colours. It's good, isn't it? Okay, so that's that one. And then we'll put another one up here. I'm not doing what I was going to do today. What I was going to do, and I changed my mind when I got to the studio, I was going to paint some sort of thank you cards. And I was going to just paint some potted plants on little cards. But I don't know. Then I came to the studio and I noticed we've got pots of impatiens growing in outside the studio, and I noticed them and I thought, oh, maybe I should do that instead. So there's some nice blue ones, and you could pick up a bit more blue with perhaps a little bit of green, and you could just sort of emphasize the stem a bit with a bit of green, greeny blue, dark turquoise. Just drop that into the line that's still damp. And let that spread a bit, because that always looks quite good. We're still not really painting, are we? I mean, this is not really painting. This is not what I would call painting. Okay, and now what I'm going to do for this one, I'll turn my paints around so that you can see the different colours, and I'm going to go for these. This is buff titanium from Daniel Smith. This is jaune brilliant from Holbein, and this is warm white from Michael Harding. And those three colours, any one of those would do for this. I'm going to mix a bit of all of them together, but you don't need all three of them. And then I'm going to put in here, I'm going to put some long leaves, just using these colours, long and quite fat. And then I'm going to pick up some really dark green and pray and hope that we get a nice effect when we just drop some of that in. So we have a kind of, this turns into a sort of gouache, because these three are highly pigmented with white to give that colour. So we'll do that and just let that randomly spread. I'm sorry if you can hear some whining noises of chainsaws and things in the background, but our neighbours who've just moved in next door are cutting down a lot of superfluous plants. So we'll just add some darks like that. And then when that's completely dry, we'll put some more details in. Okay, now this one, I think we need some really quite proper green. So I'm going to go to my sap green light. And let's put in some nice tall stems. And then we'll put in some, what should we do? What kind of leaves shall we do? Should we do lots and lots of small pointy ones? And we can have some dark. Like that. And then we go back to the so we'll just vary the green a little bit. I didn't say what brush I was using. I'm actually using one of my Craftmo ones, but if you don't have the Craftmo ones, this is just a round number 7, and Princeton. I prefer the Aqua Elite to the Neptune, but they're both fine. I think that's probably the best choice myself if you are in America. If you're in England, I would probably recommend a Winsor & Newton or something like that from Amazon. Okay. So notice I'm not doing any flowers as such on this. I'm going to keep this as, what do you call them? Foliage plants. And now we're back to the final one. And what colour shall we use there? Let me see. Maybe I'll put a little bit of floral on this. Perhaps, maybe. I'm not sure. We could do something if we used some dark green, for example, very dark green, we could draw some nice fine lines. It's just a matter of thinking of doing different things, really, just to give you different ideas. So we could do that, and then we could, just so that we've got a little bit of brightness, we could go to the dark red. So add a little bit of black to your alizarin crimson. And then we could put berries on here, or little tiny flowers. And it's still not really painting, is it? It's just playing. Okay, so there we are. Now, for our strings, this is where it gets kind of a little bit sort of, what's the word? Yes. Well, anyway, we need a dark colour, and then we're going to go kind of like you do with macrame. And then we'll have a kind of thing hanging down here. And in a minute, when that's dry, we'll put in the string up the top. Okay, and I'm going to try and do it with paint. Could use a pen if you wanted to. Let me see. Okay, any old how really. Any old how. Let's do this one nice and simple. I'm using, I didn't mention what paper I was using either, but you all know what I'm using. It's Meaton cold press. And this is a large pad. This is 12 by 9, relatively large. They are going to be bringing out another size, a bigger size, actually. And so that will be good. The next size up, 16 by 12, I think. I think in September. So when I get that, then it'll be available and I'll let you know. Oops. Oh dear. Well, when you do something like that, you need to grab a piece of tissue and a clean bit of water, relatively clean. Just wash it off like that and just blot it with your tissue and you should be okay. Right, and then let's try not to do that again. It's a bit tricky. Okay, now I'm going to dry it. Make sure everything is dry. And then we do the last bit. I'm just going to use an Artex acrylic pen here to make these berries a little bit rounder. I'm not going to try to make them completely round, but I want to make them a bit bigger, and it's just awkward with a brush. So if you've got one of these sets, this is where it can come in handy. And you can just match up the colour that you were using. Because if you've got a set of 48 of these, chances are one of the colours will be pretty darn close. So we're just really adding that. And then another thing you can do at that point is pick up another one of these. This one's bitter chocolate, and I could have used that for all of my lines. It would have probably made it easier and more accurate, but I can sort of add a few details and tidy things up a little bit if I want to. And I can also do my rings, my support ring, and then just bring that line up and keep your fingers crossed that it's going to hang reasonably straight. Doesn't matter if it doesn't. There we are. We can do 2, or you could do 3. You can do, you can, if you want, you can put the back of the pot in if you feel you need to, and you can make that a little bit. See, all these fiddly little details, like emphasizing the lines, perhaps increasing the amount of shadow a little bit. It's very useful to have these pens. We can do that in there. So that looks a bit more, a bit more finished. So then we could do a different color for a hanging string. We could do, this one could be in green. No, maybe that's too light. Let me see what I got here. Oh, is that a dark green? That's a dark green. With the dark green, you can come into your plants and you can give them veins much more easily than using a brush. So it's great to get the basics in with the brush, and then you can just add a few, veins and different shadows and things like that. I think I will look for a grey, a dark. Oh, well, why don't I just use an ordinary Kuretake pen? Could use one of these. Could use brown. I could use a Winsor & Newton sepia. That would probably work. And you could, if you wanted to, use a ruler. If you use one of these pens, just to be a bit more sure. And I think it would want to be over here a little bit. Brown is probably quite a good choice. You start there and just go up there like that. Okay, and then if you wanted to make it look a bit more like something organic, and just kind of scrabble over a little bit to make it look like it's macrame or something. Not just a line that you've drawn, or you can leave it as a line that you've drawn. And we can go around the back of the pot a little bit, like that. We could have another one going down the middle there if you wanted to, but I don't think I will. And then maybe I'm going to put this one's hanging up here a little bit more. And we'll go from here to there. And from there to there. Okay, and then this one's going to be right up here. Go from there. And from there to there. Okay, and then this one, we'll put him up here a little bit. I think I never finished what I was going to say, actually. I was talking about the idea of making thank you cards. You could use one of these pots on a little thank you card, couldn't you? And someone used the phrase "love hanging with you." I think that's an Americanism, isn't it? To hang with someone, is that what you say? Okay, so put a little bit of line in there. Okay, so then we need to grab an eraser. An eraser. We can use either an ordinary one like that, or if I can find it, here we are, what they call a kneadable. Everyone needs a kneadable eraser. The good thing about this is that it picks up without you having to rub like that. So you just press down and it will pick up the graphite. So this is fine for, that kind of thing, but you do get the bits, which you then have to brush away. The good thing about a kneadable eraser, I don't know whether everyone realizes this, is that it might take a little bit longer, but it doesn't damage your paper. It doesn't create bits of rubbery gunk that you have to later vacuum up. And yeah, it does take a bit longer, but it works. It really does. It's good. Kneadable, as in with a K, Knea, kneadable. You can get them. Faber-Castell do a good one, which comes in a little plastic case like this. Oops. Yes, this is the Faber-Castell one. Comes in a little case to keep it from drying out. I haven't used this one very much, actually. This is the one I'm using at the moment, but I'll put a link for that. And I do recommend them, actually. They are really good because you know how when you use this all over your painting, there's a pretty good chance that you might damage some of your brushwork. Whereas when you do this, it's kind of soothing anyway. It's one of those ASMR things without the sound. Right, I think we're done now. If you wanted to decorate the pots, you could. I tell you what, I've got the sudden urge to put some white dots hither and thither, if I can find. Well, I don't know. It doesn't have to be white, does it? Could be yellow. Let's see. See what happens. You could put some. Oh, yes, I like that. Don't you? I think that's rather fun. And we could, well, let's see. On this colour here, we could have a nice reddish pink. what could we do? We could do some circles. Oh no, that's too dark. We want something lighter than that, I think. There we are. That's good. And then let's have some beige. We can do a little, let's do a little zigzag around the top here, like that. And with this one, something like that. And then maybe, ooh, darker beige, perhaps. We could have I think this is a very fun thing to do. That makes them look so much more interesting. And then just one other thing before we go. I do think I need to put some veins in here. So we'll go with the black because it happens to be handy. And this pen is the one that is a calligraphy pen. So you press down and you get a thicker line, lift up and you get a thinner line. And that is rather fun, and that does work rather well. So, you know, you have to find your own way and, you know, just play. Quite pleased with the way they came out. We could put some more lines in there. We could put a center line down the veins for the veins if you wanted to. That's not too bad. And we could put a bit, using this pen, we could put a bit of shadow on the holding things, but I'm not going to play around with that too much because my lunch is calling me. And put a bit more shadow at the back. It's all good stuff. It's fun, isn't it? I'm glad you enjoyed that. I did. And I'm going to let you go now. And let's see how that looks on the camera when we hold it up like this. Yeah. I think I'll put that on the wall and then I know I can't kill my plants. So don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. If you're new here and this is the first time you've ever watched me, do subscribe and turn on notifications. We've got a website, we do Facebook, we've got Patreon, or there's membership here on YouTube as well, all for your benefit. So we hope you enjoy being with us and I will see you again soon. Bye for now, everybody. Bye-bye.